Motor Shed. Today we have another review for you, and I'm driving the BMW 520i M Sport. So this is the latest generation of 5 Series. The 5 Series of course sitting in the middle of BMW's range, so above the 3 Series and below the 7 in terms of saloons. So this is available as a 4-door family saloon or an estate. This latest generation has updated styling and fresh interior, and I have to say this interior is fantastic. It is so solid. I mean, literally everything is bolted down so well, and all the finishes are just so nice. All of this silver trim on the dash it just looks great, and it feels robust as well. So this being the M Sport, just give you some driving options. You can stick it into Eco if you're feeling frugal. Of course you've got Comfort, which is for regular daily driving, and then you've got Sport mode, which will tighten up the steering for you, improve gear shifts and let the engine rev out a bit longer. So it's very nice to drive, it's very comfortable, very quiet in here. You've got a large chunky steering wheel to hold on to. I won't say it's the most engaging of drives. I mean, the steering is very light. That does tighten up a bit if you stick it into Sport mode and ensure that steering is selected for sportiness. Incidentally, you can, when you put it into Sport mode, select Sport or Individual. Individual allowing you to tailor your experience a bit more. So when you do put it into Sport mode, you'll notice that the dials in your instrument cluster will change. In my opinion, they look loads better. So what you can do for daily driving is put it into Sport mode, Individual, but turning all of the settings to Comfort, so then you can experience the dashboard without actually sticking it into Sport. So I'll take you through the interior features in a little more detail then. So let's start in the back then. And of course you've got this lovely leather upholstery, Isofix points of course. Not an awful lot in the back here. You do have this centre armrest with a couple of cup holders. No lid with storage though, like you might expect. You've got some contrast stitching on this leather, but all in all it looks pretty smart. I like the door cards. There's some storage in the back of the seats, aeroplane style-y. Plenty of pockets to store drinks and sweets, etc. What sells it for me though is the interior in the front. All of the materials blending together really nicely, makes for a really smart looking interior. Inside the centre console you have a 12-volt adapter, but no USB port, which is a little odd, although there does look to be a space for one, so maybe you get it in uprated models. There's also a little cubby by your right knee, which is useful for change and that sort of thing. Chewing gum maybe. You've got a decent sized boot with a few storage compartments, a net to store your first aid kit. There's also this special cubby here for concealing drugs. There's also plenty of hooks to strap things down to. So all in all, a pretty useful boot. What really sets this interior off though is the mood lighting, especially when it's getting dark. It really pops. It is a very nice touch. So just to go through a few things in the interior once the light goes down. You've got a very nice infotainment system, works very quickly, looks very slick, and obviously you can do a great deal of things with it, as well as checking tyre pressures, all displayed in a really cool way. So you can check things like oil levels. You do get digital clocks. They change depending on what mode you're in. Eco mode gives you these nice blue dials. My favourite though is sport mode. You get a large digital speedometer, and the clock on the right changes depending on what you're doing. A couple of cup holders in the front, concealed if you don't need them. Not sure if that's a mobile charging port or not. Interior lighting, you've got a couple of map lights, and you can switch big light on. The mood lighting that I was referring to earlier can be changed to various different colours. You don't just have to have one colour either. You can select colour schemes where you have two different colours. I quite like this white stripe along the top and faded green at the bottom. Looks really smart. Clashes maybe with the blue interior of this car, but who cares? Satellite navigation is pretty good. Various ways of inputting your destination. The top of the iDrive wheel also acts as like a tracking pad for your finger. I quickly learnt, however, that you need to do capital letters only because it doesn't recognise lowercase. So once you're using it right, it is pretty good. You can also talk to it pressing a button on the steering wheel, and I found that to be really accurate. Performance figures wise, I'll put them on the screen now. Not exactly the fastest, just under 8 seconds to 60, but this car isn't about performance, so it really doesn't matter. So this car is available with a variety of engines. As I mentioned, this is the 520i, so a 2-litre petrol engine. They're all mated to a 8-speed automatic gearbox, but you also have the 530D, 520D, which is going to be the most popular. You've also got the 540i, which is the range top in petrol, until you get to the likes of the new M5. So this one is sitting on 18-inch wheels. Nice design, they just look like they could be a bit bigger, but then you're going to sacrifice some of the ride quality because the sidewalls on these tyres are fairly high, which I think is responsible for a lot of the comfort in this car. I mean, I can compare it to my 6 Series Grand Coupe M Sport, which I drive every day obviously, and that is a much firmer ride than this is. Till you don't want it to be. But even then it's not the noisiest. It is such a quiet car. It's so quiet, when you're rolling up to junctions you can almost be forgiven for thinking it's a hybrid. So there's plenty of room in here. This is the widest 5 Series ever at just over 2.1 metres wide. It is, I mean, you can barely touch the other side. It is a wide car, plenty of room in the cabin here. You've got decent leg room in the back for rear passengers. Practicality wise, the only thing it's really lacking is fold down rear seats. But it does have a big boot. It's just on some of those trips to the tip maybe, or putting large wardrobes in, that sort of thing. you're not going to be able to do it simply because those seats won't fold down. I'm not sure if that is an option. I'll let you know. So this car in particular is £40,000 when new. Depreciation wise, these aren't too bad, but after 5 years you can expect it to be at around about a third of its value. If I was to buy one of these, I would definitely go for the 530D. It's a strong engine. There's nothing particularly wrong with the 520D. It will be the most common. I just prefer a little bit more power in my cars. I would also go for the estate model, simply because you don't get the downfall of the impracticality with the rear seats not folding down. So, all things considered, what do I think of this car? I think it's great. The main thing that sells this car for me is its interior. It is really very nice. All of the materials are good, and this isn't exactly a top of the range model. You've got this beautiful cream leather. It's not the upgraded leather that you get with a a smooth finish, but it's nice nonetheless. And just the way the interior is put together, the dashboard and the center console, it's such good quality and it looks incredible. I absolutely love the mood lighting as well, in interchangeable colours. It looks great. I know a lot of cars, Mercedes wise, BMW are getting that these days, so it's not particularly new. But if you're upgrading to a newer car, then it's definitely something that you're going to benefit from. I would also say, if you're a music lover, definitely upgrade to the Harman Kardon sound system, because the one as standard isn't great. Other than that, make sure you spec a reverse camera, another thing that this particular spec doesn't have. I am missing it, although there are plenty sensors dotted around the car. That's it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.